and welcome to Healthcare Hour with Krystle. How's your week been? Have you been having fun? Are you planning to go away or any kind of holiday? I know if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, you could be working almost to Christmas, but certainly in the Southern Hemisphere, people are getting their swimming costumes out of the cupboard. Although today's weather, not really. As you know, Healthcare Hour is all about healthcare professionals. It's about us understanding that they are people, they get tired, they get hungry, they have families that they would like to see. They've got friends who probably don't remember what they look like. It's also about us improving the relationship and improving our communication as healthcare professionals with our patients and patients' families. And then as the public, as the people who one day may be patients, it's also about us understanding that we need to take ownership of our own health. We need to be informed and not be sitting on the couch like little potatoes going, oh, it's got nothing to do with me. So, each week we meet a different person, and today's no different. We have got Krystle Kemp on the line. She's going to be talking to us soon. Hi, Krystle. Let's just say hello.
Hi, Colleen. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes. Okay, and so now we have a visitor. The cat's come to see us, but anyway, what is happening as well is that we're going to go for a break. When we come back, we're going to speak to Krystle, and we're going to hear more about what's happening in Krystle's world. But let's go for a break.
The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is a professional development center for professionals who aim to improve their professional standing. This means that the learning programs we run are more than just academic programs. They are work-based programs that focus on leveraging your current experience as a professional to build your overall profile. A year down the line, the Africa Center for Work-Based Learning is developing into a preferred center for professional development in Pretoria, with 8 professional development faculties including accounting, teaching, entrepreneurship, as well as IT and many more. For more information, go to acwbl.org or dial +27 12 751 7608. The Africa Center for Work-Based Learning, where work is learning.
Welcome back. You are listening to Healthcare Hour with Krystle. You may also be watching us because we are also vision now and not only auditory. My guest today is Krystle Kemp. She is from SADAG, and for those of you who don't know SADAG, that is the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. So Krystle, good day. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, and I'm loving the Johannesburg weather, which is so nice and sunny today.
Awesome. Okay, so Krystle, as I said, healthcare professionals are people first. So fill us in more about who's Krystle.
So, as you said, my name is Krystle. I'm one of the project managers at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. And I oversee a few different portfolios, from our dedicated higher learning helplines to our press and media to our support group portfolio. I have a background in psychology with an honors degree. And it's just incredible to be part of a space and part of an organization that is so focused on giving back and providing help to those in need who may otherwise feel like they're alone on this journey.
Okay, so all right, so you're saying like a support group coordinator, you're running projects.
Yes,
Okay.
running different projects. So we actually have a support group coordinator. I'm just there to support her, to oversee her. But it used to be, the portfolio used to be my baby. And it's honestly one of my favorite portfolios at SADAG. In fact, SADAG is 31 years old today. I think for an NGO that's
Oh, happy
pretty,
birthday, SADAG.
I think that's pretty impressive. Um, and SADAG actually started as a support group. Our founder, Zane Wilson, had been living with undiagnosed panic for an incredible amount of time, couldn't get the help that she needed. And once she had received that help, she thought, no, I need to help more people in need, because the journey was so lonely and so difficult. And so she put in a small advert in the classified section of a newspaper. And 31 years ago, over 70 people arrived at the SADAG, at the Santon Library to join the support group. And so it grew from that one support group 30 years ago to now having over a network of over 180 different support groups around the country.
180.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Oh, so of course that's throughout the country. So you might have like specific ones, but they're in Boksburg, Benoni, and wherever.
Yes, and some of them are online. So it's about a 50-50% split. So the online ones, obviously anyone within the country can attend, whereas the face-to-face ones are slightly more limited in regards to location, but just as meaningful and impactful.
Okay. All right. So so it's basically support. So how does a normal support group work?
So about 80% or more of our support group leaders are patients or ex-patients themselves. So it's always really important to kind of define the distinction. So when we look at group therapy, for example, that would typically be run by a mental health practitioner, someone accredited with the Health Professions Council of South Africa. And those group therapy is normally structured over X amount of sessions. It has a very clear start and finish. Where in support groups, there isn't a leader per se. So even though there's a support group leader, they are as much a member of the group as anyone else within the group. And during meetings, their role is kind of to facilitate, to make sure everything's going smoothly, everyone's feeling included, pick up on kind of any emotions, that sort of thing. So anyone who is interested in starting a support group can reach out to SADAG. And what we do is we'll do an initial screening telephone conversation. Why are you looking to start a support group? Always focusing on first doing good and not harm. So if someone actually needs to be going for therapy, their experience with mental illness is very raw, very fresh, we would then not suggest that they immediately start a support group, but look at ulterior options and paths to explore. But for those leaders who are in a good place mentally to start a support group, they go through quite an intensive six-session training with an evaluation at the end of each training. And once they've completed all 6, they do 2 or 3 practical observation sessions, and then we assist them with launching the group. So the training is entirely free. We offer ongoing support. So all of our support group leaders have a support group meeting specifically for them on every single Friday. And then, yeah, just helping with re-advertising, perhaps if there's a problem within the group. SADAG offers all of that support. If any one of their members has found themselves in the support group before they were perhaps ready to be there, the support group leaders can refer back to SADAG, and we can get one of our counselors to give that person a call and provide them with different referrals and a way forward, so that we can first prioritize their individual healing journey. And then when they're feeling a little bit stronger or on their feet, they can absolutely join a support group. So a lot of our support groups are supplementary. You've received a diagnosis, where and if necessary, you're managing, but we want to make sure that you continue to manage. We know mental health can be such a lonely journey, and having a support group where you are surrounded by incredible individuals who have walked a similar path to you, who have first-hand experience, for example, of living with depression or bipolar disorder, can really be phenomenal in one's ongoing journey towards mental well-being.
So what I'm hearing you say, Krystle, is that the overall, the umbrella is mental health. And then depending on which little category you find yourself in, you know, whether it's bipolar, I think you also offer like divorce, for instance. Okay. So it's your mental health in a divorce. It's mental health in grief.
Absolutely. So I mean, having 180 groups, we have a lot of different topics. We have teachers' mental health support groups. We have support groups for depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder. We have mental health support groups, exactly as you say, all with a focus towards mental health, because without mental health, there is no
Anything else. Yes.
right? So we have support groups for pet bereavement. We know in this day and age, a lot of pets are seen as children.
Children.
So we have those support groups. We have support groups for survivors of loved ones of suicide, support groups for family members of children who may have special needs. The list is endless, but
Yes.
all very much focusing on how do we look after our mental health when we're facing struggles and challenges.
And then you're also taking somebody who's interested in supporting others, but to still be supported, because often when we go into a group, it's not like, well, I'm the group, you're the group and I'm just here to facilitate. It's also, I'm part of the group. I'm one of you. Okay. And that you're then looking for people with lived experience to be able to host the group as all. Yes.
Absolutely. It is critical that the support group leader is as much a member as anyone else. There isn't a hierarchy in a support group setting. Part of being part of a support group is also being able to get that sense of empowerment, that sense of I'm helping others. So this week I might be having a really bad week, and I lean on the group quite heavily to offer me support and guidance. Whereas next week or in a few weeks' time, I might be feeling much better, and I can see someone in the group is really struggling. And I'm then able to lean in and offer them that support and guidance. And there's a lot of misconception that you're going to go to a support group and they're going to say, this is right, this is wrong, this is what you should do. That's very different to what a support group actually is. We make sure that we're actively listening. I'm not listening to you to answer your question, to give you an answer. I'm not here kind of thinking like, oh, how can we solve this? Because in a lot of ways, that takes away from someone's autonomy. We know as people, so often we know the decision that we need to make. It's just a sad reality of life that that's not necessarily a desirable decision. And so being able just to talk and be heard allows for the person to kind of work through these thoughts, their decision pathways. And then there's a lot of shared experience. So I'm not going to say, oh, well, if you're going through a difficult divorce, you have to do, this is such a silly example, you have to do a 10-kilometer hike. But rather saying, when I was going through a divorce, because we're all in the same platform, when I was going through a divorce, what I found really helpful was prioritizing exercise. And it actually became, a pattern in which I did 10 kilometers every day. And that for me was so grounding, and it really helped me in my journey towards recovery. So I've shared something that works for me. I haven't been divorced. It's just an example in case my husband watches this and thinks, oh goodness.
He's saying, huh? What news is this?
News, breaking news. But it's so valuable to hear other people's, how they've managed, what they've done that's worked. Someone might share, when I was going through a divorce, I did this and I actually found it really wasn't helpful to me. And so we're sharing our own experience with the person. We're not telling them what to do with that experience, but they can then take that on board, see what would fit for them, what's relevant for them. Do they want to integrate anything? But really the key here is having someone to really listen to you.
Yeah. Okay, so we are really listening to you, Krystle, but let's go for a break.
How do you know the life or personal coach you're about to work with is who they say they are? How do you know if they can do the job? At the Africa Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology, we can tell you. So, before you share your secrets and spend your money, check with us first. Visit www.abccccp.com or call us on 012-751-7608. The ABCCP, the professional body for coaches.
Welcome back. You are watching Healthcare Hour with Colleen Quist. My guest today is Krystle Kemp from SADAG, and she's been telling us about their 180 support groups in South Africa. So that's obviously countrywide, and basically saying, any kind of topic, but we are saying that mental health features in all of them, because without mental health, you have nothing. So SADAG stands for the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, but it obviously encompasses a lot more topics, but all leads back to that. Yes. Okay, so what you're saying is that somebody hosts or leads a group. They've got lived experience. They're also, I was hosting a group yesterday, not with SADAG, an international support group. And it was interesting to hear how people got so much value out of just being listened to. And then also, they also get value of like, me too, me too. So I'm not the only one who feels however they're feeling. And so that was certainly the theme from yesterday afternoon of, but like, yes, me too. And you're realizing as well that often people, the public, we default to fix. Let's fix this. And realizing we can't fix other people's situations, only they can change it or move through it or whatever they need to do in it, but we can't fix it. Yeah.
And I think in trying to fix it, we actually can sometimes it can be detrimental. Because I'm listening to provide you with an answer. There is a phenomenal video by Brené Brown, you can find it on YouTube, that describes the difference between sympathy and empathy. So often me giving you a solution or my assumed solution to your problem actually makes me feel better instead of making you feel better, because we are as people so outcome focused. And so really listening means not trying to find the solution, but being more present in what is this person feeling right now? How are they feeling? Because sometimes I might not know when I'm sharing with you that actually I'm really angry, and so I might be saying something in quite an animated way, and I think that I'm sad, and someone reflects in the group, Krystle, I can see you're really angry. And I go, what? I'm not angry. And then they might say, oh, it's what I observed. You seem a lot more irritable than normal. I noticed that you had quite exaggerated physical expressions, kind of thing. And that gives me the opportunity to reflect on that feeling. Maybe it's an inaccurate feeling, but it's still providing that space for us to think, is this how I'm feeling? Why could I be feeling angry? And then also to say, anger is such a shunned emotion. It's a key emotion to our existence, but in so many scenarios, it's like, well, you shouldn't get angry. You can be sad, you can be depressed, but you absolutely mustn't be angry. And so allowing the person to say, maybe I am angry, and maybe I'm allowed to be angry. Maybe this is quite an appropriate feeling if I actually explore it a little deeper. And often in being able to identify that feeling can take great strides in someone being able to get grounded within themselves.
Yeah. Yes, and very valid as well with anger, where even for me, sometimes people say, oh, Colleen, you're angry. And I go like, no, I'm not angry. And then you realize, okay, well, like what are you? And so that's where I like those emotional vocab wheels of saying, okay, I'm not angry. Actually, I'm hurt, or I'm irritated, or I'm embarrassed, or but I'm not angry. And so now you defending like, how dare you call me angry when actually I'm hurt? I think my daughter and I have that conversation most often. Yes. So it's also, so it's important to have a safe space. The people in my group yesterday were saying that more and more they're finding that, I suppose it's a bit like from an environmental point of view, that almost the safe environments are getting less. and
Is it
especially where you live, depending on where you know, which country you live in, it's also you're not free to be able to share. Yeah. So just interesting as well. But so when we try and fix things, when we try and we dismiss people, we have that whole idea of no, how you feeling is not valid. It's just nonsense. Now get over yourself. I don't care what your voice is telling you. It's just nonsense. Just get over it now. Stop doing it and just move on to yes. And people saying they're not heard, then they're not seen, they're not acknowledged, they're not supported. Yeah. So quite interesting. Okay, so what other kind of groups do you have at SADAG? Let's hear some more themes.
I'm trying to think of, I mean, there's so many. We have a whole branch dedicated to what we call peer support groups. Unlike our mental health support groups, which I mentioned are supplementary, our peer support groups are more preventative. So the person joining the group doesn't necessarily have a mental illness, or if they're struggling with their mental health, it's more situational, for example. And these groups we often target at university and higher learning students, because a huge philosophy of SADAG is don't wait until the problem gets so big that it feels insurmountable. Even if it's the smallest thing, even if you feel a bit silly and kind of think, well, no, I'm not going to say anything because they're going to laugh at me and I'm sure tomorrow I'm going to feel better. By regularly attending a support group and saying, well, this week I'm really struggling with exam stress, or this week I'm having a lot of anxiety because I know my results are coming out, or I'm really anxious about going to on campus full time, for example. But I also just want to say support groups are just one of the pillars that SADAG offers. We also run over 30 different toll-free helplines available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We run the crisis. We run the country's only suicide crisis helpline, which we receive no funding for. Looking at the statistics, and often the helpline is what we're most well known for. The support groups are just something I'm so proud of. I think, you know, specifically in South Africa, but around the world, we're limited in regards to the amount of healthcare professionals available. So I know we're looking at an international audience here, but in South Africa, there's one psychologist to every 100,000 people, and there is one psychiatrist to every 300,000 people. Meaning, even if people had the means to afford therapy, there are literally not enough people able to provide that therapy. And so what support groups do is that they create resources within communities that are accessible. They're always free to attend. None of our SADAG groups have costs involved at all. And so we're almost upskilling communities, empowering communities to be there and to offer support, where in a lot of instances we know that there isn't enough support available.
And so if you are in a call center, you know, where your helplines, 24/7 helpline, does everyone gather in a specific space to be able to be the helpline?
So I think that's a really interesting question. If I look back to that January pre-COVID, all of our helplines, or we were totally physically in the office. And we
Yes.
literally had 3 days after the announcement to make this work online digitally as well. So we have a head office, which is in Rivonia, and then we have satellite branches in Cape Town as well as in KZN. But it's a pooled helpline. So it's not just that if you're phoning from KZN that you're going to speak to a SADAG KZN counselor. You could speak to anyone from the pooled helpline because the services are available nationwide. And for the international listeners, we actually have a lot of international members within our support groups. They haven't been able to find the resource where they live. And so especially with the online groups, there's no reason for anyone not to attend. So yes, we are in person in the call center, but we also do have counselors working remotely for different reasons at different times.
Okay, so it's reassuring to know that 24/7, somebody's out there, somebody will listen. And for that, let's go and listen to our sponsors. We'll be back.
The home of inspiration every day.
Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful.
From news,
Countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus.
views,
There's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence.
sports,
What do you say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala.
and music to inspire you every day. This is Vuga Online, your inspiration radio station.
Hi there, you are listening to Healthcare Hour with Colin Quist. My guest today is Krystle Kemp. She is from SADAG, and she's been telling us all about the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, which is South African based, although it supports anybody who can call in because they run more than 30 toll-free helplines, which are available 24/7, 365. And also they have got support groups. They're also working with communities to be able to uplift communities and make a difference. Yes. So we are fast approaching holiday season, vacation time, certainly in the Southern Hemisphere. How does that impact mental health and the work that SADAG does?
So I think there's almost two types of people, right? The kind of people that are like December holidays, specifically within South Africa, as you mentioned, where like the country seems to almost shut down. But the sense of huge excitement, a lot of people have pushed all year to get to December to take their one chance for annual leave to refresh. And so we have those that are really excited about the festive season, but we also have a large majority of individuals who are dreading it. And I can be excited and dreading, obviously, at the same time. Festive season often means a lot of expenses that we don't have throughout the year, a lot of gifting occasions, which can put a lot of pressure on us financially. We have the whole January idea that January comes, January feels like it's 12 months in and of itself in terms of our salary making it to the end. A lot of family expectations. Family can be a wonderful thing to enjoy, to celebrate with, but there's also a lot of dynamics, often a lot of conflict. Some people feel that there's tremendous amounts of pressure in making those 2 weeks everything, because they know that after the 2 weeks have come, it's the same old story again for 11 months and 2 weeks of the year. And so I'm so glad that you brought this up. SADAG is actually currently doing a survey on unpacking and understanding mental health during the festive season, unpacking the holiday blues. You can find it on our website, www.sadag.org. I actually took the survey last night. It's a quick and easy survey, but it really makes you think about things. I think someone once told me the most beautiful analogy, and they said, I was like, oh, I've come back from leave. I've just had two weeks of leave over December, but I don't feel recharged. I don't feel refreshed. And the charge that I currently have needs to get me to next December, which can be an immense amount of cause an immense amount of overwhelm. And so I was chatting to someone about this, about the pressure to make everything out of those 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever you have. And they said, Krystle, can you charge your battery once a year, your cell phone battery once a year? And I said, no, don't be silly. I have to charge my battery,
Every day.
Every day.
Yes.
And they were saying, well, why do you think that 2 weeks or 3 weeks of holiday is going to provide you with enough charge, enough energy for the next 11 months? And it was quite silly, like it was quite a silly analogy, but it really made me think, why do we have this expectation? And I think there's a lot of pressure surrounding the December holidays. And how do we alleviate some of that pressure? But how do we also make sure that outside of those 2 to 3 weeks of leave that we might be getting, that we're remembering to constantly recharge throughout the year, whether that's taking an extra day off to have an extended long weekend, whether that's doing something that really kind of fills your cup once a day, that sort of thing. We also have people who will work throughout the holidays or the holiday period while everyone else is on leave. And that can also come with a sense of sadness, of missing out, of regret. And circling back to regret now is grief during the holiday seasons. A lot of people have, Christmas used to be the most incredible time with my family, but subsequently, again, this is an example, but my loved one passed, and now I'm not going to have them, and it's not going to be what it used to be. So we get a lot of sense of sadness. January, again, is often a time of reflection. This is where New Year's resolutions come into play, right? What am I going to do to make 2026 the best year ever? It has to be the best year ever. And even though time can be a constructed concept, we often take this period, or December to January, to kind of be like, well, I didn't actually achieve the things that I wanted to, or this year was really hard. And then putting so much expectation on the next year
That the
that we're
next year will
almost,
be perfect.
yes,
Yeah. And you find also people get to August, September, October and go, okay, well, no, it wasn't perfect. So then they also want to like cancel out the rest of the year because the new one will be perfect. Yeah. But what you're seeing as well is that people set dreams of like, oh, I really want to, but then they don't work with a coach to turn their dreams into the little achievable milestones. And so come March, April, June, whatever, they go, oh, that's it. Yeah. But I've also seen people, where you're talking about the rest, build in the rest into each week, into each month. Not like, oh, well, I've just got to survive until. I've just got to get to. And I've always said to people, oh, does your body know? Does your mind know? Did you tell your brain? Because this whole idea of no, I've just got to get to the second of, or in this year, it's the 12th of December. I've just got to get to the 12th of December in a South African context. And then, no, fast forward to ICU, off you go. Before that,
and I think I just need to,
I just need to. Yes,
that often lands us in such hot water, because once we've done the thing that we just needed to do, we already have the next thing that we just need to do
yeah,
on our plates already. And so we're never feeling like I get to take a break now. And I think that's where boundaries become so important. And yet they're so difficult to implement. And it takes a lot of work. And I love what you said about we have these dreams and ambitions for what we want to do, but do we get to the stage where we say, well, if this is my dream or my ambition, what am I going to do to make that a reality?
yes,
And constantly checking in, but also making sure that our dreams aren't so large that we're setting ourselves up for failure.
yeah,
If my ultimate dream is to be a superstar, I probably should start with singing lessons, because if my husband had anything to say, he'd say I sound like a dead cat. But the singing lessons might be the first start for me.
yeah,
It's an achievable goal, not necessarily that I'll be a good singer, because I think all hope is lost for that. But it's an achievable goal to go to lessons, which is
yes,
actively trying to work towards the thing I want to achieve.
yeah. And then also seeing maybe you just enjoy singing. It doesn't have to be that people pay you. Maybe people pay you not to sing, but you know, and so it chunks your dream and it turns it into a goal. And from there, also understanding the goal of, oh, I really want to sing. Okay, who do you want to sing for? How come do you want to sing? Because then you can then see, okay, I love being able to be free and sing at the top of my voice. Okay, could you do that in the shower? Could you subject other people to it? And so it's just like it drills it down into, okay, now we've got actual little bite-sized steps. And then you do the bite-sized steps and then you go, oh, now. But then it's important that sometimes you're climbing Everest and you go, oh, I'll never climb Everest. It's important to turn around then and see, look how far I've come. Look how many little bite-sized steps I've done. Look how far I am from the start. Although maybe the end is still far away. Yeah. So before we close then, Krystle, what is your message for healthcare professionals and also for the public, no matter where they may be in the world?
So what I'd like to say to the professionals is remember, even though you're a healthcare professional, you actually are also a member of the public. And I think that that is something that is often not allowed or provided for to healthcare professionals. So just like your patients need help, support, care, so do you. And so don't think that that superhero cape makes you exempt from feeling vulnerable, from feeling sensitive, from feeling down, from having bad days. And then to the general public, I really think we wait until the whole building is burning down before we reach out for help. I really feel so strongly about being more proactive in terms of prioritizing our mental health and mental well-being. There's this misconception and misunderstanding. Every single person in the world has mental health. A lot of people don't realize that, but we all have mental health. It doesn't mean that our mental health is good. It doesn't mean that our mental health is bad, but it's something we all have. And it's intrinsically linked to our physical health. If we don't have physical health, often we struggle with our mental health. If we don't have good mental health, we often struggle with our physical health. So we need to realize that in the same way we would be conscious about perhaps our physical health because society has deemed that appropriate, we need to be just as aware of our mental well-being, because not everyone has a mental illness. So everyone has mental health, but not necessarily mental illness. And if we don't look after our mental health, there is a chance that it turns into mental illness. And so don't wait until the house is burning. The moment that you recognize within yourself, I'm
A bit
not
of a
really
niggle,
happy,
bit of a tweak. Yeah.
or I'm going, I just need to wait for these 2 weeks and then it's going to be better. And then 2 weeks later, as we said, something else comes up and we go, no. That is when we have to time out and say, I do just have to do this, but first I'm taking a time out. First, I'm going to look at how I integrate things into my daily life that are going to recharge and refill me. So I'd love to remind everyone that there is hope. You don't have to do this alone. If you are struggling, reach out. If you don't have a support system that you know is going to be able to provide you with what you're needing, then reach out to SADAG, chat to one of our counselors, phone us if you're interested in joining a support group or finding out what other resources are available, because I think this is a team effort.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks so much, Krystle. Also, to remind everyone to look at the SADAG website on www.sadag.org and go and complete the survey on the festive season. I'm going to do that right now. Okay. Also look out for all those the toll-free helplines. And yes, very important message that Krystle has been sharing with us. Don't wait until you're running on fumes before you reach out for help. When you just dip below the full sign, let's go fill up. Yes. So thank you for joining us. Okay, so you have been listening to Healthcare Hour with Colleen Quist. Please remember that you're loved, you matter, and you're not alone. And we'll see you next week.